This is BBB, Defense BBB. What we've done here might be obvious to you, but let me describe it. We've added your simulation to the simulation did for Dr. Murray's testimony.
Yes.
Right?
Dr. Murray's
Statement. Got it. Sorry
Is that
about
correct?
that.
Yes, that's correct.
One of the things that you said yesterday during testimony is that it takes that you believed you could prove that Michael Jackson could not have taken any oral lorazepam for 4 hours. Is that what you said?
Based on the amount of lorazepam, that was 1/250th of a tablet. Actual lorazepam found in the stomach, 1/250th of a tablet, that is correct.
And you're basing it on the half-life of dissolved lorazepam tablets.
Yes, taking 16 milligrams and a amount of lorazepam in the stomach of 0.08. I did that in the courtroom, but I then checked my math, and it works out to 4 hours.
And that's how you got the 4 hours, based
That's how I got
on
the 4 hours.
the dissolved lorazepam.
Correct.
Now-
16 milligrams would go to 0.008 milligrams of lorazepam in 4 hours.
Now, when you talk about half-life you're not talking about the tablet dissolving itself. You're talking about the amount of lorazepam, oral lorazepam, that stays in the stomach. Is that right?
That's correct. It's based on the absorption half-life.
So the 4 hours prior to his death, noon,
Yes.
you're saying that if he were to consume oral lorazepam, it would have to have been before 8 a.m.
Based just on the 0.008 number and ignoring the fact that that number is in equilibration with the plasma, yes.
All right. You also did a midazolam simulation,
That is correct.
and I believe your testimony was that it equates to what Dr. Murray said he gave Michael Jackson?
It seemed to be, let me just pull it up, but it seemed to me that that was not likely to be contributory.
Are there oral versions of midazolam available in the United States?
Not that I recall.
And the simulation that you performed in the midazolam, the only simulation you performed was you actually, in that case, you went and took Dr. Murray's dose to determine what the concentration would be, right?
Correct.
And the concentration equated, right?
Correct.
All right, let's go on to propofol.
Yes.
All right? This is propofol, 25 milligrams, it's titled. It's Exhibit DDD, Judge. David.
Triple
David.
delta. Thank you.
This is a simulation that you, and I need Dr. Miller's simulation. This is a simulation that you created, is that right?
That's correct.
And what you did is you took 25 milligrams of propofol, injected, right?
Yes.
And
Simulated.
and then drew the graph based on that dosage to determine concentration over time.
Correct.
Pharmacokinetics,
Correct.
right? In its purest form, right?
I don't know what that means.
Well, you used your computer programs to do this graph, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, in this example, well, let me show you. Dr. Shafer.
No problem. Take your time. I'm working here too.
Let me show you Defense Exhibit EEE.
Triple echo.
This is EEE.
Yes.
All right. What is this a simulation of?
This is a simulation I did for Professor White a couple days ago.
Thank you for that.
Glad to do it.
Can you describe what this is?
This is, Dr. White wanted to know what it would look like over 5 minutes, and I'm happy to do it. That's what this shows. This is the plasma and effect site concentrations over 5 minutes. Sorry, this is 2.5 cc's, 25 milligrams distributed over 5 minutes rather than distributed over 1 minute as a bolus.
And let me show you DDD again.
Yes?
This is you prepared this for the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
And what does this show?
That's given as a bolus.
And what? And
25 milligrams given at time 0.
all right, and the bolus then is injected immediately.
Correct. It's all just simply given by intravenous push.
I believe you even clap to show.
Correct.
Just right in, right?
Yep. Yes.
This EEE represents over 5 minutes.
That is correct.
Now, you're familiar, in this particular exhibit, EEE, Triple E, you understand the reason we were asking is because it was based on the statement that Dr. Murray made to the police.
I understand that.
He told the police that he injected the 25 over 3 to 5 minutes.
I understand that.
This, which is what you presented to the prosecution with the prosecution, is 25 milligrams immediately pushed in, right?
That is correct.
And you do this in the operating room all the time, right?
Yes.
You push it in.
Usually.
What do you mean usually?
It depends if I'm running an infusion or inducing anesthesia. When I induce anesthesia, I usually give the propofol typically over about 2 minutes. I don't know if you would consider giving 10 cc's of propofol over 2 minutes push or infusion. It's something that actually I learned from Dr. White, which is that if you give it over about 2 minutes, the patients have less pain on injection.
Well, the AstraZeneca FDA insert discusses how long it should take you to provide the patient a bolus, doesn't it?
I wrote that section, and that's for sedation, not for induction of anesthesia.
All right. Well, how long?
3 to 5 minutes.
For what?
For the dose of 0.5 milligrams per kilogram should be given over 3 to 5 minutes, and that's for my work.
Is that for sedation or anesthesia?
For sedation.
Thank you.
For sedation.
And for anesthesia, you'll do it over 2 minutes.
For anesthesia, I will more likely do it over 2 minutes, yes.
And one of the reasons, and this, by the way, the FDA insert that we're talking about, it's the same insert for Teva's brand of propofol, right? And Hospira, right?
With the small exception that it's sulfite. The ones that have sulfite have a warning that's not on the label of Diprovan. With that exception, they are the same package inserts.
So you're familiar with why this is suggested, the slow infusion over 3 to 5 minutes?
I'm very familiar with why it is, yes.
And why is it?
The Food and Drug Administration in 1991 wanted sedation to start with an infusion. And at that point in time, this is a confusing simulation, but I simulated...
Well, if you, rather than talking about a graph, if you can just testify.
I was of the belief that clinicians, when they gave a bolus of drug like that, they knew there would be a delay until the patient responded, and you had to wait for that delay. There is also a delay with an infusion. But 20 years ago, I believed my clinical colleagues were not so conscious of the delay when you give an infusion, and that they would keep the drug running as an infusion until they saw the drug effect they wanted. The difficulty is the infusion sets you on a trajectory, just like the bolus. The trajectory means when you stop giving the drug, the patient continues to have the levels of drug in the brain rise. And I was concerned that if the infusion was too fast, they would keep it running until the patient was sedated. And then, when they stop the infusion for the sedate to start the sedation, the patient would continue to get more deeply sedated than intended. I prepared an analysis that contrasted the duration of the infusion, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, with the overshoot that you would get if you ran your infusion until you saw the patient sedated. And 3 minutes was the right balance. 3 to 5 minutes was the right balance between minimizing the overshoot that you will get if you run the infusion until you see the desired level of sedation. So it was actually a rather nuanced reason that 3 to 5 minutes was picked.
And you're saying that the reason it was picked is because you decided it was a good idea? Is it your idea, the 3 to 5 minutes? Is that what you're saying?
This was a dialogue between myself, Curtis Wright at the Food and Drug Administration and his team, David Goodell and his team at AstraZeneca, and, of course, with Don Stansky. This was a collaboration. It wasn't just some idea, but I did this. I proposed the framework. These were the questions that had to be balanced, and then I did the simulations, which allowed us to come up with that 3 to 5 minutes.
The danger of rapid infusion of bolus is apnea.
Say again.
The danger of a rapid infusion of a bolus is apnea, right?
Yes. Yes.
As you rapidly infuse, we have, even with 25 milligrams, a high level.
That's the blood. It's irrelevant. You have to look at the red line, which is the brain.
And by the way, let's talk about the brain for a second.
Sure.
What was Michael Jackson's brain propofol concentration in this case?
I do not know that there was a brain concentration, but the simulations permit us to understand the effect site levels.
Dr. Shafer, I'm not asking about your simulations. I'm asking, what did the coroner say is his brain propofol levels?
I would need to look at the coroner's report to see that.
Please do.
And while Dr. Chase is doing that, may I see counsel?